Mihai is here to speak about Akasha, which is a decentralized social network that stands for the crowd because it's focused on actually researching and developing a working decentralized application before taking anyone's money. And actually today, so a really big round of applause for Mihai, because today, exactly 2 years ago to the day, is when he unveiled the Akasha project. And he's going to present the plans that he has for the token layer and the main network launch, also known as Akasha 1.0. Welcome, Mihai.
Hello, Toronto. Hello, everyone. Yep. Thank you for the warm welcome. I've been actually looking forward to this day for, I don't know, around 4 years. And the title of the talk is Collective Intelligence, Moving Towards Collective Intelligence. And I'm super excited to give this talk at Ryerson University, since it's a place describing itself at the intersection between mind and action. And this resonates deeply with us because with Akasha, what we want to actually do is explore the applications and implications of a permanent web for a better home of mind. This is a connection with the original Declaration for the Independence of the Cyberspace in '98. What? That's like 20 years ago? 2 decades. So, as Jason said, 2 years ago on May 3rd, 2016, we unveiled Akasha and opened the sign-ups for the alpha. And to our surprise, in less than a month, we had over 2,000 people signing up, which was very encouraging and a sign that there are many people interested in a truly decentralized social network. And around 6 months ago, we also presented at DEF CON our first token experiment. And it's worth mentioning that we didn't start designing this social network around the token. We actually took an experiment-driven research and approach and tried to have the token experiment as a module inside the platform. So fast forwarding, please work. Fast forwarding until 2 weeks ago, we also released Akasha, the web version, which is accessible from Mist and all the browsers that are capable of running the MetaMask extension. And it's worth mentioning that this web version has the IPFS part completely rewritten in IPFS.js in order to enable peer-to-peer browser communication. We take decentralization quite seriously in this project. And before moving on and talking about the future plans and what we want to do with the token layer, I'd like to, okay, let's see. So in 1993, for some context, this is when the Mosaic browser was first released. It was still the very early days of the internet. Very few people knew what it means. Even fewer actually used it. And Charlie McGee published this paper around the same time called The Age of Imagination, Coming Soon to a Civilization Near You. And in this paper, he mentions that the transition might be less than 25 years away. And when you add the numbers, this is actually 2018, so we live in the future now. And one of the points he's trying to make in the first paragraph is that this transition will be different from the other transitions we had, because it is accelerating right through the information age through another massive transition in the way we humans work and play. And then he goes on and presents like the systems of communication as evolutionary scaffolding, in the sense that the most successful groups throughout human history have one thing in common. When compared to their competition, they had the best system of communication. So this is not about the best army or the best weapons, it's about the best systems of communication. And the fittest communicators had a larger percentage of people with access to higher quality information, a greater ability to transform that information into knowledge and action, and more freedom to communicate that new knowledge among the members of their group. And this is something that currently we have reached, I think, the limits of what our current communication systems can do. And let's take a look with this in mind at the current humanity's most popular system of communication. And this let's see. This is Sean Parker, co-founder of Napster and the first president of Facebook, talking a bit about the thought process that went into designing Facebook.
Thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them to really understand it. That thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible.
Yeah, not creepy at all. And followed by?
Exploited vulnerability in human psychology. And I think that the inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's Kevin Systrom at Instagram, it's all of these people, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
Yeah, that's quite an evil laugh at the end, but... So now, moving on, like this is not visible to everyone, but there are visible problems. Like for example, the latest congressional hearings we had. Oh man, still not. Like with Mark Zuckerberg being, interviewed and heard. And actually, this is from today. Facebook has this event called F8. During this event, Mark Zuckerberg says it will take around 3 years to fix Facebook. But today I'm going to argue that it's quite hard, close to impossible to fix something that relies on advertising. And this is an article published in The Atlantic by Ethan Zuckerman. That's actually his name. This is the guy that wrote the code lines for the first pop-up ad in the history of the internet. And basically the whole article reads like, I'm sorry, our intentions were good. And I'd like to draw your attention on this quote at the bottom, saying that demonstrating that you're going to target more and better than Facebook requires moving deeper into the world of surveillance. So that's moving deeper, which means we're already there. It's not moving into the world of surveillance, it's deeper. How bad it can get. And on the same line of thought, the default internet business model following this pop-up ad was advertising, which led to this emergent surveillance capitalism, which kind of corrupted the original vision of the internet being this new medium of expression, empowering humanity, all the good stuff, and turned into this mass surveillance creepy thing that we are dependent on to communicate with the people we want to. And the deeper implications of today's problems are that over 2 billion people are being dictated what to think, and we have numerous studies and experiments conducted part by Facebook itself. And over 3 billion people, we're talking about half a planet here, so that's quite a lot, routed daily to what they are allowed to know. So that's every click you get to find from a search result and so on. And it kind of makes you wonder, where will we go from here, right? When our privacy is being eroded and invaded on a daily basis, our freedom of expression diminished, and our collective memory outsourced in the hands of just a few corporations that don't always have our best interests at heart. And I know it's May 3rd, but May 4th be with you. And it's almost like we are witnessing in real time this building of an information Death Star, capable of, enslaving or even destroying this information-based society, taking the shape of our human civilization. And it kind of makes you, again, question what information society means. And a quick search would lead you to this Wikipedia page that explains that an information society is a society where the manipulation of information is a significant economic, political, especially political quite recently, and cultural activity, profoundly changing all aspects of social organization, including economy, education, health, warfare, government, and while at it, democracy. And to qualify as a citizen in this information society, it's those of us who use the internet regularly and effectively, which pretty much is everyone in this room, and most likely those who watch this presentation, online. And the point here, based on the previous slides, is that we are living in a collected information society. It's not just an information society, it's like collected by this information Death Star. And again, like if we think about what is actually information, please don't touch the buttons there. What is information? Again, a quick search would lead to this Wikipedia page defining information theory. And this is a big contribution to this field what was made by Claude Shannon in 1948. That's like 70 years ago, quite ahead of his time. And its impact has been crucial to the success of the Voyager missions to deep space, the invention of the CD, feasibility of mobile phones, development of the internet, and even the understanding of black holes. This is quite a profound discovery that influenced our society. And one of the core ideas in this is that information is different from the meaning. And Claude Shannon and later on Weaver made this distinction to solve two problems. One from an engineering perspective and the second from a philosophical perspective. And so to give you an example on how this works, we have the 9/11. So this is the information basically. It's just two numbers. But depending on the cultural operating system, so to speak, this can be decoded and processed differently, called through noisy semantics. And the information is 9/11, the input, then we process it, searching for meaning, and then the output would be the meaning itself. So in this case, the meaning would depend. If you are a member of the NASA, this might have a special importance to you because the Mars Global Surveyor reached Mars in '97. If you're a part of Catalonia, this would be the National Day. And if you're a US citizen, this might trigger some Twin Tower attack memories, and not good at all. But the idea is that the same information can be decoded differently. And another way to look at this presentation is that the information source would be the words that I compose in my mind as I speak, and I encode them through sound waves that reach your ear. And the medium through which the channel of communication would be this room itself. And then when you receive the signal, the sound wave, actually you go through the decoding them in your mind to extract the meaning of the message. And when we look at the current state, well, this is actually on the same page with the Information Society, and shows the global information storage capacity. This goes only until 2007, but if it look, this is around 300 exabytes in total, analog plus digital. And according to some predictions, we are headed towards something like 40,000 exabytes in 2020. So it's exponentially increasing and again accelerating in its growth. But this is not just about hoarding data and information. This is also about making sense of this information, right? And we have the emergence of collective digital information processing. And Google in 98 and actually Blogger in 99 introduced this blogging as a service, so to call, that lowered the barriers of entry for people. It was easier now to share your thoughts with others. Later on, it was purchased by Google and so on, but moving on, we have like this boom of application here in 2002, 2006. And one of them that it's still influencing today's digital meaning processing is Dig, which introduced the dig or bury function, which is now, let's say, reincarnated in Reddit and like dislikes in YouTube and many others around the web. And now when you overlap the two, like the previous one with the growth of information and this, you can see some correlation. I mean, it's still hard to decide if it's cause and effect and which one influenced the other, but one thing is clear. The environment in which these applications emerge is quite different from the one we live today. The complexity and the amount of data is a lot bigger than what it was. And the dark side of this story is that as an information-based society, we are now dependent on these proprietary closed information processors that use the information to just, come up with the best way to serve you spam, to make you buy something, or to, manipulate into doing something that you're not really interested in doing. And when we look at how the information can be processed, we have two ways. So, well, it's either centralized information processing or decentralized information processing, and each of them can be either sequential or parallel. And it could be argued that the early pioneers trying to figure out how to navigate this flux of information were using a centralized sequential information processing. It's almost like in the early days, when we figured that we can use distiller to navigate the river. And you see all the people are very obedient and waiting for the master to take them where it is. Like, you can replace the master with the proprietary information processors. And then when we move on to our more recent days, to our more recent days, we have like this decentralized sequential information processing. Like in 2014, we had Cinereo, which was kind of like a Facebook. Then we have Steemit, which is sort of like a Reddit. And then we have Leroy and Pipit, which is sort of like a Twitter, right? And with Akasha in 2016, we tried to combine like multiple ideas. But the problem with this approach is that we end up using this new technology to apply the best idea from 15 years ago, when the environment was a lot less complex, the informational environment. So today, I'm going to speak about how we can get past this stage, and this is actually a picture of one of the earliest automobiles. And the steering wheel was not a concept that was there from the beginning. We had to go through some iterations in finding this new concept to maneuver this new vehicle. But you can see that this is something we keep doing as a civilization. We copy what was working in the past and trying to make it work even if the medium of the technology is completely different. And today I'm going to talk about decentralized parallel information processing. And what I mean by this is that instead of having one single signal, we can have open the layer and tap into this collective intelligence. And when I say collective intelligence, it's this emergent intelligence manifesting at the group level, and it has like these three pillars. One is coordination, one is cooperation, and one is cognition. So the coordination is ad hoc communities and coordinating collective action, which I think this event, EdCon, qualifies. This is an ad hoc community and coordinated collective action. We are here. And then the cooperation is open source software, yay Ethereum, peer-to-peer business, yay Ethereum, and then network of trust, you guessed it, yay Ethereum. So then the one that is a bit trickier to fit and to understand is the cognition. And in here, when we zoom in, we can see that the cognition pillar is made out of market judgment and predictions of future events in politics and technology. And when you think about what is market judgment, this screen might be familiar, right? The CoinMarketCap view. Although I don't know if it's rational or emotional or speculative, but it's a type of judgment, right? It's a feedback of reflecting the interactions within the market. So what we want to do now is to test this approach in which we use this token called Essence. And we call it like a multiverse within a token because it's not using one token to signal with it. And then we have like inside Akasha, you can imagine this CoinMarketCap-like section. And in this case, instead of measuring the transaction or so, we have the users that chose to color their essence into a particular like happy or joy. And it's worth mentioning that these are placeholders. And this is a general purpose signaling mechanism. But basically, instead of choosing, which one goes to the moon, we look at the number of entries, comments, and the change in popularity of the signal itself. And to give you a try here, the interesting part in this is that the actual interaction of the users with each color would generate a curated feed in the form of this. So this might feel familiar, but actually these represent the upvotes of entries and the comments and the chat rooms and the users that use this essence. So we start to look at the essence not as just a thing that goes from zero to moon, but actually as something useful in marking, like you have with social insects, the path around. So it makes it easier for people to find the information. And in here you can have this look at four tags in which the blue dots represent the hashes, which would be the content itself or the information. And then each of these colors could be used to mark this content differently, depending on what's relevant for the color itself. So in this case, it could be relevant some hashes, in another some other hashes, in another some other hashes. And when you overlap them, you have this emergent understanding, which is not possible when you have just one signal. And this is something completely new, I think, because it also allows to separate, decouple the information from meaning. So well, on one side you have the information itself, and then on the other you have the curation and moderation of the information. And the coloring of the essence, you know, even it's not rocket science, we try to make it as easy as possible. And this is a screen of the wallet in which the user can switch back from a colored essence to the main essence token, so to speak. So this is like a framework for generating various signals. And to put it all together, I'm trying to rush it now, so I'm not going over. This is the dashboard, which might look familiar for those of you who have tried the application. And by the way, those who want to give it a try, we have also at beta.akasha.world, the web application available. And in here you can see that we have this color bar, which reflects how this entry is actually received in different communities or you know, groups that align to a common goal to create the best information. And when you go into an article and you want to vote, to express your feeling, to mark the content depending on what you want, this is your balance of essence. And you can select from multiple to vote, to express your feedback on that particular entry. And another interesting side effect of this is that in the comment section, you know, the discussion surrounding the content, you can have this semi-permeable let's say, mechanism that allows you to highlight certain conversation that have been voted with a particular signal. So it's not like just limiting and you know, horse glasses, but you can also see how the rest are perceiving in the bigger picture. And let's see, another very interesting part is the reputation. So instead of having just one signal, like in the Black Mirror with the girl trying to gain stars, you have this multidimensional reputation where you can be very popular in a community and relatively unknown in another. And let's see. Yes, this is like a decentralized attention market in itself, which allows the curation algorithms to evolve. So it's not up to us anymore to come up with a perfect curation algorithm and moderation, but we open this layer to the community to come up with their own ideas on how we can make this better and work. And this is how I think we can tap into this market judgment, because we can use it as a feedback mechanism. And this is also putting into the Shannon-Weaver's model of communication, in which the feedback constantly improves the channel and, you know, gradually removes the noise. And that's the cognition of it. So the opportunity ahead is to explore alternative business models that are based on computational storage and cognitive surplus, move away from this advertising and spying on the users approach. And the potential is there, because the Ethereum community jumped from 10,000 in 2015 to almost 1 million. And this is a screen we had just a couple of days ago. And it kind of makes you wonder, because in 2016, 200 million stopped using Facebook, mainly because security concerns. But only 1% of that, if they would be looking for an alternative, that would triple the Ethereum community. And that also points to the scalability and other pressing problems, the elephant in the room, that Joseph Fun will talk in a bit. And we also have Plasma, and I'm sure many others. So just to wrap it up, this is the transition that was talked about 25 years ago, and I think this is a way in which we can ensure that a larger percentage of people will have access to higher quality information and a greater ability to transform that information into knowledge and action, and more freedom to communicate that new knowledge to the members of their group. And in conclusion, that's a lot of work to do, a lot of play too. It depends on how you look at it, and we invite everyone to play and to discover, to tap into our collective imagination, to co-create a better communication system that is an ecosystem in service of humanity, designed to transform information into knowledge and action. And the work play ahead is that we need as much help as possible on the token and incentives layer, on the identity and reputation, and on the scalability and architecture. And just in conclusion, this is a quote from the Matrix. I really didn't come here today to tell you how this is going to end. I came to paint a picture of how this can begin. And ultimately, I think this will happen because it's not information that wants to be free. It's us. and it can begin as a massive redistribution of power, knowledge, and wealth, the greatest that humanity has ever seen. Those of you who are interested, join the fun at akasha.world, and thank you for your attention.
The hot and sweaty essence would be really large right now.